I barely escaped a deadly cult. It all started with a flyer. I was sitting in my car outside the grocery store, staring at the rain streaking down the windshield, when I noticed it tucked under the wiper blade. The paper was slightly damp, but the bold handwritten words were still legible. Find peace, find purpose, join us. Below the text was an address and a time. Sanctuary of Light, Sunday 7 p.m. All are welcome. I don't know why I took it. Maybe it was the timing. I'd been feeling lost adrift, like I was just going through the motions of life without any real direction, or maybe it was the way the words seemed to speak directly to me, as if they knew exactly what I needed. Whatever the reason, I found myself driving to the address that Sunday evening, my heart pounding with a mix of curiosity and hope. The Sanctuary of Light was an old sprawling estate on the outskirts of town, surrounded by dense woods. The house itself was a crumbling Victorian mansion, its paint peeling and its windows dark, but as I approached, I noticed a warm glow coming from the back of the property. I followed a gravel path around the side of the house and found myself in a large open courtyard. Dozens of people were gathered there, sitting in a circle around a bonfire. They were all dressed in a circle arise. Clothes? I hesitated at the edge of the courtyard, suddenly feeling out of place in my jeans and hoodie. But before I could turn and leave, a man approached me. He was tall and lean, with piercing blue eyes and a warm smile. He introduced himself as Elias, the leader of the sanctuary. "Welcome," he said, his voice calm and soothing. "We've been expecting you." I frowned. "Expecting me?" He nodded. "The universe brings those who are ready to us, and I can see that you're ready." I didn't know what to say to that, but before I could respond, he took my hand and led me into the circle. The chanting grew louder as I sat down, the words unfamiliar but strangely comforting. I closed my eyes and let the sound wash over me, feeling a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. That was how it began. At first, the sanctuary was everything I'd hoped for. The people were kind and welcoming, the atmosphere peaceful and serene. We spent our days meditating, gardening, and sharing meals together. Elias was always there, guiding us, teaching us, his words filled with wisdom and insight. He spoke of letting go of our pasts, of shedding the burdens that weighed us down, of finding our true purpose in life. It all sounded so perfect. But slowly things began to change. It started with small things. Elias began to talk more about the outside world, how it was corrupt and toxic, how it was filled with people who didn't understand us. He encouraged us to cut ties with our families and friends, to focus solely on the sanctuary and our spiritual growth. At first I resisted. I still called my parents every week, still checked in with my friends. Then came the rules. Elias began to impose stricter guidelines on our daily lives. We were to wake up at dawn for meditation, to eat only the food grown in the sanctuary's garden, to spend our evenings in silent reflection. Phones and other electronics were confiscated, deemed distractions from our spiritual journey. At first I didn't mind. I was here to find peace, after all. But as the rules grew more restrictive, I began to feel a sense. The rituals changed too. What had once been peaceful chanting around the bonfire became something darker, more intense. Elias began to speak of cleansing and rebirth, of shedding our old selves to become something new. The chanting grew louder, more frantic, and the air in the courtyard felt charged with energy. I found myself caught up in it, swept away by the fervor of the group. But afterward I would feel drained, hollow, as if something had been taken from me. Then came the night I'll never forget. It was late, well past midnight, and I couldn't sleep. I slipped out of my bunk and wandered the grounds, hoping the cool night air would clear my head. As I passed the main house, I noticed a light on in one of the upstairs windows. Curious, I crept closer and peered inside. What I saw made my blood run cold. Elias was standing in the center of the room, surrounded by a group of followers. They were all dressed in black robes, their faces hidden behind masks. In the center of the room was a large ornate table, and on it lay a young woman I recognized from the group. She was unconscious, her arms and legs bound, her face pale and lifeless. Elias raised a knife above her, his voice low and guttural, as he chanted in a language I didn't understand. The others joined in, their voices rising in a cacophony of sound. I wanted to look away, to run, but I was frozen in place, my eyes glued to the scene before me. Just as Elias brought the knife down, I stumbled back my foot, catching on a loose stone. The sound was enough to alert them, and I saw Elias's head snap up, his eyes locking onto mine. I didn't wait to see what would happen next. I turned and ran, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't stop until I reached the edge of the property, where a tall wrought iron fence separated the sanctuary from the woods beyond. I climbed over it, my hands slipping on the wet metal, and plunged into the tree's branches, clawed at my face and arms as I ran, but I didn't care. I had to get away. I don't know how long I ran, but eventually I stumbled onto a road. A passing trucker found me trembling and incoherent and took me to the nearest town. The police were called, and I told them everything I'd seen. They raided the sanctuary the next day, but Elias and most of his followers were gone. The only thing they found was the young woman's body, her blood still staining the table. The police searched the surrounding area, but Elias was never found. Some say he's still out there hiding in the woods, waiting for the right moment to return. Others believe he fled the country, starting a new cult somewhere far away. I don't know what happened to him, and I don't want it to know. All I know is that I barely escaped with my life. I still have nightmares about that night, about the look in Elias's eyes as he raised the knife. I hear his voice in my dreams whispering, "You can't escape the light." But I did barely. The sanctuary of light is gone now, the estate abandoned and crumbling, but the memories remain, haunting me, reminding me of how close I came to losing myself. I've tried to move on, to rebuild my life, but it's not easy. The outside world feels different now, colder, more dangerous. I find myself looking over my shoulder, wondering if Elias is still out there, watching, waiting. If Elias is still out, I don't know if I'll ever feel safe again. But I do know one thing for sure: I'll never let myself be lured in by promises of peace and purpose. Again, the cost is too high, and I've already paid it once.